Buffalo soldier, dreaded like Alaska. They were the buffalo soldier in the heart of America. Stolen from Africa, brought to America. Good morning, good morning, good morning. We're here on this Independence Day. Money, power, and politics. I think we've all seen this week, enough is enough. Joining us today, first off, before introducing somebody who really doesn't need an introduction, if you're from Baltimore or anywhere in the country, really, let me have my co-host, Attorney Hassan Barnes, greet you in the customary way.
Certainly. Good morning. Good morning. It is July 4th. It feels weird being here and not smelling burgers and steak and ribs on the grill. So we're here to bring the show to you today, and it's good having our guests here.
All right, with us today is Dr. Michael Zollicoffer. And if you're from Baltimore, you know him as Dr. Z. In addition to his medical prowess, which is legendary in and of itself, Dr. Z is here today as one of my closest and best friends. He may, during the course of this discussion, tell you about some of the ordeals that he has had to struggle with and still struggling with, but primarily we're going to talk about the state of health nationally and in the city of Baltimore, the state of health in the poor and Black communities throughout. Good morning, Dr. Z. How are you?
What's up, brother? I'm here, baby. Fight the fight, baby. Doing my thing.
And we do appreciate the fact that you came out this morning, obviously yourself not feeling as well as you want to feel.
Right.
But you struggled to get here, and we certainly appreciate that.
Always for the people.
And look forward to the message that you intend to bring through the questions that we have. Hassan, you want to start us off with a question for Dr. Z, or you?
I'm gonna jump right into it. We all know that President Trump has been pushing forward with his fiscal goals, and one of those has been the One Big Beautiful Bill, or the OBBBA, One Big Beautiful Bill Act. It's close to Obama, but he's trying his best to push back on Obama. And as we saw initially, people thought it wouldn't pass when he first identified the One Big Beautiful Bill. People, will never get through the House, never get through the Senate. It's got to be both.
Yeah.
And I think Lisa Murkowski was being interviewed, and she was saying she didn't like the bill and all these different things. And they're like, why you vote for it then? Why you vote for it? Yeah. The president has done a masterclass in getting people to do things that's contrary to the interests of their constituents in a way that's been very open and very transparent. And so for me, why One Big Beautiful Bill and seeing all the things that we are finding out, and for our viewers, we all are finding out in real time what it's in it, right? People voted for it, didn't know what's in it. Right. And we're still learning day to day, this is in it, that's in it. One of the big things is to cut, they want to cut funds from Medicare and I think also Medicaid.
Medicaid.
From what I can see, it's going to cut about $500 billion from Medicaid, well, actually from Medicare, what I'm reading here, between 27 and 34. 2027 and 2034, they're cutting $500 billion. That's a lot of money.
Yes, a lot.
Certainly, Medicare and Medicaid are for either people who are older and or people who have limited means.
Right.
You cut those benefits, you're basically ensuring that you're cutting wealth from the poor population to the not to anybody, just cutting it from the poor. I guess you feel like the people who are getting Medicare and Medicaid, getting food stamps, getting WIC, they're living too high in the hog. Man. So it's time to pull back. It seemed to me unconscionable, and my question has always been for our conservative legislatures, how do you justify this? Many of the conservatives govern rural districts, and those districts are typically suffering from the same poverty, if not more, than urban centers. So I'm from Baltimore. We know Baltimore has areas where there are people who are poor and impoverished, and they have one market they use for young people being poor is how many people want free lunch, and a good number of kids in city schools are on free lunch. Well, you go places like West Virginia, the same thing. Right. And you go places all around the country where people rural The difference is they may look different. One might be white, one may be black.
Right.
But poverty is poverty. Poverty don't
Poverty
don't target only black folks.
It ain't got no name.
Exactly.
Right?
And as
no
we
color.
are a small portion of the population, it's not all of us on poverty. All of us not in poverty. All of us aren't poor.
Right.
But they are doing a big swath of people who are poor to reduce the benefits the government is giving them. While they're still giving all kind of grants to people like Elon Musk and giving all subsidies to wealthy people, I find it interesting. But in terms of the Medicare, Medicaid, and the pullback from people who are poor, I wanted to ask you, as a physician and someone who's worked in tough communities, what effects would you see initially as they talk about ramping back from Medicare and Medicaid?
Look at this, and you're thinking 500 million. I mean, some people are moving up to almost 900 million.
No, they said 500 billion.
Yeah, that's what with billion. I meant billion, but they can. Some people have put it even up to 900 billion, almost $1 trillion. Going to be left out from our people, and I don't mean black folk. I just mean people of need.
Yeah.
And if you have a need, then you got to have this dollar flow. This dollar flow, if you cut it off, I mean, you change people's lives overnight. If you really take that funding, which has happened throughout the Trump administration in this short period of time when he started, he has just decimated this country. I mean, this pillage and burn situation where he just goes in and just people. So that didn't work. None of it works. This man is an idiot, and so that's what comes with it. But with that idiot thought process, you leaving people from SNAP. I mean, come on, folks, man. You talking about people who go to school just to get their breakfast, brother.
Yeah.
I mean, you talking about taking away SNAP. Golly Moses, baby. I can't even put it into my mindset. We have to look at things, though, in this country. See, this country has never had health care for its people. They've always looked at health care as a privilege, not a right. And so it's not even in the Constitution where you got a right that you can take the other 10 GDP people. And most of those countries have health care as a right. Folks, I'm gonna tell you, I don't think y'all hear me well when I say a right. It's like getting a driver's license. It's like getting out here and doing anything. It's a right.
Like Canada, up north, our neighbors, they have universal health care.
Everybody got it covered, other than us. We are a problem, people. We are a problem. And this doesn't go on. Even Obamacare, let's go back and put it to who tried to fix the problem. He didn't fix the problem. And I'm not mad at Obama because he gave it a shot. But he gave you access to a bad situation. Healthcare has never been a part of the United States of America's goals or emphasis to do right for people. It has never been. And no matter what we do to try to change it, it is still without a right. Go ahead, Bob.
And this country gives millions of dollars a day to countries that have free healthcare, like Israel. Has free healthcare, but we can't afford it for our own people.
You are saying that you are right.
That doesn't sound much like Make America First.
No, it don't make anything first. It's an idiot thought process. And I'm saying Obama because at least gave an effort. All right, gave an effort for universal health care. Because of the legislature and nobody was backing it much, but at least got that passed that it gave you access and gave you some ways, some increased things with the children's age group and things of that nature. So he gave you some positives that came along with the Obamacare or Affordable Act. But the bottom line, baby, we got nothing from the deal. See, people get lost in the thought process. You do not yet ever in this country had anything close to healthcare as a right. You just haven't had it.
Part of your legacy, Dr. Z, is that you treated, if you could get through the door, you could get treated. Whether you had any money or not.
She's saying so much.
What is the alternative for the 17 million or so people, at least, who will lose coverage through the reduction in Medicaid benefits?
They have no.
What options? Are there any other Dr. Z's out there that they can?
That's all they can do. They got to come find me. There ain't nothing they can do. I'll tell you right now, if you cut somebody's health care off and you take that 9, I'm gonna put it to $1 trillion because I'm gonna make it seem as bad as possible. If you take that $1 trillion and take it away, they have nothing. You folks hear me? Nothing. But somebody like me. That's why even with my and maybe you're giving audience that you guys had don't know, but even in me, we're here fighting cancer. But that's what I got. And I still walk up every day to battle for my brothers and sisters to come somewhere. Y'all hear me? To come somewhere. I got barrelless health care. You walk in the door, you are seen. You can't do that when corporate America is taking over your health system. Mm-hmm. You don't even know how it works. You go to the ER at Sinai, and you think that's Sinai's ER. That ain't Sinai's ER. That's a man's practice, y'all. Well, he can't fix it. That's corporate America. You go to Sinai's nursery. That ain't Sinai's nursery. That's a man's practice. He don't give a daggone about fixing health care. He just want to make money. And guess me, and even away from them, if I even talk to the people who provide me some the care for the cancer, they all, I mean, they come in there. Everybody knows what I'm trying to do because everybody knows the story. I'll tell a little bit about it in a minute because it illustrates the problem. But I was denied health care because I didn't know insurance. So a man with cancer walk into the place and the man said, "You can't get nothing. You got to get yourself some insurance." I said, "What?" He's the man who's gone 40 years of providing free health care to people. I sit in a chair and a man tell me, "Give me $75,000 and I'll treat you." Come on, people. Come on. Put that down in your thinking areas. You put it in your between them two ears and put that brain. It is outrageous what we're doing. So those people will get nothing. You need a Dr. Z, and that's why I stay independent. I don't go to corporate America. I don't and Bob and them know, look, during the pandemic, hey, look, he took us down to nothing. Nobody came. So me as a private doc, I had to give up the practice in the way it was and formulate a smaller unit. But why did I do that? Because we don't have health care as a right.
What's the solution, Dr. Z? What's the solution?
The solution is to go back and step forward this thing through to the point where you can give the universal health care, whatever name you want to give it. You know, the point being is you got to do what the other 9 GDP countries, take the top 10, America being one of them, but it's off the list because it doesn't do anything. So you have to go back and have somebody with the knowledge, which I have, because I've been living with the situation forever. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? I have given everybody what they need. You come in, you're seen. You have to stay independent to be able to call your own shots. When you work for corporate America, they call your shot. And the docs, and what I was saying, when you were talking about Bob, the docs that came to me, they say, "Doc, we all behind you." Well, we can't do nothing. This is what they've been mouth. We can't do anything because we work for the man. So we got to decrease and decouple the corporate situation. I know that's not easy, but we have sequences that we can do with people with knowledge. And there's very few people with medical knowledge to do what we're talking about doing. But you got to dismantle this corporate entity.
Let me ask you this.
It can be done.
Let me ask you this. We have the other nations, the Western countries, whether it's Britain, whether it's France, whether it's Canada, who all have universal health care. Right. They have poor people too. Right. What do you see the differences between the people in this country, whether middle class or poor, who don't have universal health care, who have to either pay for it or get government aid, which isn't always there, compared to someone in Canada or someone in Britain or someone in France or Germany?
I think you just said it already. I mean, they have universal health. Universal means access to everybody. Mm-hmm. That's what you need.
Are the people healthier? Do they
doesn't make a difference or whatever. They'll make it poor or rich. They have access to go in that door. That is a major situation. They got access to go in that door. Oh, that's just right. Yeah, access to go in that door. Okay? That's the key. You have to get access, and it's been done. See what I'm saying? This ain't no magic wand. It's been done.
Well, let's try to bring it home a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's say, you know, we got Mayor Scott
Right.
sitting right over there,
Right.
and he's got a pen and a pencil or a computer or whatever he wants to record notes on, and he's saying, Dr. Z, 30% or better of my population is on Medicaid.
Right.
Or got kids who are eligible and receiving SNAP and
Right.
nutritional benefits. Now, and the funding for that was previously through the state, reimbursable to the state through the feds, that's now gone. Dr. Z, tell me how I can how can I ensure the health of that 30% of my constituency in Baltimore City, assuming no changes at the federal or state level?
Yeah, I'm telling you right now, what the state talking about, they got a budget difficulties. They don't have a bunch of money as a state. Baltimore City is under that state process. I'm telling you right now, you have zero. Unless you have a bunch of money sitting aside, which I know they don't have $1 trillion. Now, we don't need $1 trillion in Baltimore City, but I tell you what, you need a significant amount of millions, if not $1 billion. And you don't have it. You ain't got no way to go. You just stuck.
So you're telling me, as mayor, the only way I can ensure the continued health care for a sizable portion of my constituency, my population, is if I find the money somewhere to be able to pay for that health care. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, that's what you got. You better call Lamar Jackson. All right? You better call the boy up. $52 million a year you getting, he go ahead and give up some of them dollars.
Well, you say that sort of joke, but you raise the issue of getting of a wealth tax.
Yes.
You know, the newly chosen Democratic nominee for mayor of New York and many other folks around are calling for, at one point, even in Maryland, there was a call for and Biden even at one point talked about a so-called wealth tax, a tax on the super rich.
Oh, heck yes.
Do you see that as a viable option for Baltimore City?
Yes, I see it as the viable option for this country. If you have a wealth tax and you got people who truly believe in that tax, then you have ample funds. I'm just telling you, it's no doubt about it. You got too many rich people around. You can almost get yourself $1 trillion. You see what I'm saying?
No, you can't.
That's right. Ain't no question. You're right. We can get it. And what we need is that. See, but you got to have the heart like I do. You got to know there's a need. If you don't have that heart, then you don't give up the wealth taxes. You're going to be constantly want to hold on to your funds. Your funds are not yours. The funds are for the betterment of a society.
I think whenever they have bond bills or their bills before the people,
right.
When there's a issue of raising taxes for schools, people vote for it, whether your kids or not.
Right.
Across the board, doesn't matter the race or ethnicity, they vote for it. Whenever there's a bill to increase benefits for insurance, they vote for it.
Right.
The people actually, whether they're wealthy, middle class, or poor, typically idea is that people should have some support, whether they're poor or otherwise.
Right.
However, the powers that be have been adverse to people who have less means receiving the same as they would. Right. We have different healthcare in this country. Right. If you're wealthy or if you're poor, you have different healthcare.
Yours is nothing. You can navigate it.
COVID was a good example of that. When COVID happened, people died, either elderly and or poor.
Right.
They were the vast majority of people who passed away.
Right.
And so the medicine don't change whether you're wealthy or poor, but who gets what changes.
Oh, yes.
How can we, so we talked about getting it towards universal health care, having better, more comprehensive way to treat people. But what are the issues of wealth and poverty? Because this big, beautiful bill, one big, beautiful bill act is all about poverty and wealth.
It's all about nonsense. Right. You're correct. You're correct. I can't say anything more to that. You have to have some inherent humanity to your life.
That's out the window. That's out the window.
Yeah, no, but we have to bring it up because it is needed.
Yeah.
Because I don't know any way you can persuade or move this right that we should have for healthcare without the consciousness and the heart of people. Trump does not breed that. See, that's the problem with Donald Trump. You breed the opposite of that. You breed a coalition of people who are going to hoard their dollars while other people suffer. I just don't believe in that concept. It just cannot go.
Well, the one
Yes.
the one principle that seems to have gotten traction and stayed very relevant, if not prevalent, in the political sphere is this notion of no new taxes. That seems to have caught hold, whether you're Democrat or Republican,
Right.
and so we see a lot of gimmickry.
Right.
We see, for example, during Bob Ehrlich's term, he touted no new taxes, but but it costs you more to get the tags on your car.
Right.
It costs you more.
Rain tax.
Rain
tax.
Yeah. I mean, and we see even more.
Right.
The cost of vehicle registration has gone up 80%.
That's right. That's right.
So forth. But that gimmickry is in recognition of this no new tax thing. Well, when do we reconcile? How do we reconcile the need to get more money from those who have it and hoard it, not
Right.
spend it,
Right.
but those who have it and hoard it, more money that's needed to provide life-sustaining benefits
You're correct.
to other people? And yet win the election?
Yes.
Isn't that the conundrum?
And that is the conundrum. We got to get the folks to, again, we go back to the same thing. There's got to be a heart. But if you want to look at the procedural movement, we have to then, instead of the big, whatever the heck Donald Trump calls it stuff, we got to go back and tax the heavy rich. People got to understand, you have been stuck in the Reaganomics forever. Reagan came in 1980 and then revamped the economic system of America. Before Reagan came in, folks don't understand, you were taxed at 70-some%.
And nobody cared.
And nobody gave a damn. You said right, and nobody cared because it was the policy. But you don't understand, and nobody has gone back. Once Reagan set that in motion, ain't changed. The same thing he thinks about, like he took your direct tax almost to zero. And then it took it back up to 24%, 28%. But he changed the thought process, folks. That's what happened. You got me? In 1940, you were taxed at 90%, people. And that don't mean the poor people. I mean, the rich were taxed. Guess what? Do you know Vanderbilt?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we do. Do we know Rockefeller? Do we know all them? DuPont? Do we know them? Guess what? They were taxed at 90%. They still rich.
Right.
They still rich. You cannot tax a rich person to poverty, but you can take a poor person and kill his butt by what you do to him on the tax movement. I teach this even in class with my students. I don't want them to not understand that you getting into medicine. The reason I keep coming in, no matter what my health is because I don't want anybody to not understand that when you come to care to people, it's a heart. Oh, ain't no way to separate the heart. No way to separate it. You got to understand how it works, which I teach them, how we give care to people, and they get it and they love it. You see what I'm saying too? They love it because they don't get it anywhere else. Nobody teaching you about the economics of medicine.
Who are you talk to the people that you teach your students? Tell us who are they? And where do they come from?
They are beautiful. They are PA students from the University of Maryland.
PA means physician assistant.
Physician assistants, right? Physician's assistants. And we got NP, primarily from Coppin, but I get them from all over the world.
Nurse practitioners.
Nurse practitioners. I get them from everywhere. And they are in love with what we teach. You see what I'm saying to you? But you ain't got that anywhere else. You go to South, they ain't teaching about economics. They already good and with the corporate America. No, you got to get out here and be willing to give. And this is where my brethren are not doing their jobs. I'm sorry, I'm gonna talk about you docs out here. That's the other because you the guy with the corporate model. Ain't no way you can do a daggone thing. But you got to say, you got to make decisions. Do you join that son of a gun? Because once you gone, your hands are tied. You can't help no black folk. You can't help no people.
What ties your hand? What ties your hands?
That corporate model ties your hands. You know,
so I think what's been going on for the audience, there's been consolidation in medical. They've been consolidating smaller practices under bigger units.
They buy
Efficiency
the unit.
and for cost. So as a result, when your primary used to be like you had your own shop. Most of them don't have their own shop anymore.
No,
most of them are under a conglomeration of a medical practice, so that way they can determine your salary, but also increase the profit for the.
Oh, it's all us doing that. In fact, the COVID, see, people don't understand.
Yeah.
COVID wiped out another 50% of private practice.
Yeah.
People don't understand that. You took a situation and you just went right through the whole thing.
Because only the corporations had enough capital to sustain themselves during the period of COVID.
Instead of 100 miles, that's right. That's why corporate America cannot run medical practice.
Yeah.
It has to be free. You got to be free. You got to get that right, not that privilege. It has to be done that way. And it can be done. It's not that they're going hard. You just got to have somebody with a brain.
Well, wait a minute. Who pays you to provide that training and to teach the NP interns and the PA interns and these other the kids that come? Where do you get the money from to afford to be able to provide that?
I'm in the office of the day. I don't even ask for that. I've taught these young people for 20 plus years with no fee. There's nothing that pays me. I do it because it's necessary. Just as I opened that door and took in those homeless or those who cannot afford, you don't know the beauty of it all. It makes me cry every day to see a person come in and just say they hear, oh, it's Dr. Z. It's the legend. He comes and they come. I don't mind. Say what you want to call me. I've done what we need to do, and I'm still doing it even in my illness of fighting cancer. I don't give up. That's what's needed in this country. A non-give-up-itness. And opening the door for these students and everybody else, which they do not do. That's why it's hard for them to find places to go. Go ahead.
I believing that necessity is still the mother of invention.
That's right.
Many of your colleagues, I'm talking about Black colleagues in the medical profession, have seen your story, have heard your story, have witnessed your ordeal, who know what you've done. I'm curious, how many over the last few months or whatever, particularly since you were stricken with this disease, how many have come to you and said, Dr. Z, can I help you? Not necessarily with your medical practice, but can I help you with the stuff that you're doing, the other thing, teaching the nurse practitioners, and how many have come forward? I mean, I understand you're saying they're controlled by the corporations. That's their 9-to-5 job, but there's 24 hours in a day. How many have said, I'll give you an hour after work, or I'll give you 2 hours on Saturday or so? How many have come forward and said that?
Very few come back to do that part. Very few. But I'm gonna have to say something. This world, because what my patients did, and that's what's been out there in the media. This world, so we know we can do this, has just supported me like nothing else. You talking about a man who said, "Oh, let's get $5,000, keep things going while I tidy up my little health problems." They took that when the media got a hold of it and turned that into 200, almost 300,000. That's what we know that we can do.
Mm-hmm.
If we can raise that for me, you can raise that for what we're talking about, folks. A GoFundMe can fund this situation. All right, we may not think it could generate enough money, but yes, it can if we coalesce our population to give to each other.
So you mean grassroots? You mean going back to people saying,
that's right.
If you have more, give more.
That's right, and it's not without its founding. I mean, some of these places where you go universally and look at the other non-GDP people, some of their stuff is that way.
Yeah.
Some folks do give things to folk to give it fix, and it gets away from the pillage and the control of the federal government. What I do with that little money they give me, I didn't need it all for my health. Man can't pay his bill, I'll give it, because I told people the main problem, let me say something, folks, because we ain't emphasized it yet. The main problem with healthcare, whether it was a right or a privilege, is that we can't sit back and do all we can do. We just can't do it. So we got to find a way to navigate through it all to get it done. And if we have shown that spot where I have done it, I mean, you talk that's a lot of goddamn money, and they still giving. Every day I just leave it up because I want them to give, and I'm gonna pay that man's rent. I done that. Man coming, I got to pay his car payment because socialization is the number one health problem.
And for our viewers, can we put the GoFundMe link in the site so people can see it, and if they choose to contribute,
that'd be excellent because socialization is the key.
Well, now you know that's a dirty word politically.
I know, but
when you start talking about socialism, that people that even dirtier than communism.
The man in New York shows that already.
Yeah, Mandami, they're gonna have to be socialist.
They just try to knock us down because he said he's a socialist.
He says he's a democratic socialist. They don't strike the Democrats. They only talk about the socialists.
Everybody talk about the Democrats, right? And that's what we have in front of us. What he is talking about is a need.
He quoted the king. He quoted the king about Democrats.
Right. And he's right because and look at him. He went in his campaign went against the thought, but it worked. People came to support you. Folks, listen, we can support each other, and you got to understand your health problem is your socioeconomic. It's number one. Socioeconomic. If you don't get that right, you can't do a daggone thing. Your stress is high. That's where we lose black folk in needless deaths that you don't have a name to. This healthcare is real.
So why is it that the American black people, even in the Democratic Party, didn't come to endorse Mondayne? I know I'm butchering.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
I apologize if you heard that, but phonetics is not my thing.
That's all right.
But so why is it Hakeem Jeffries and not even AOC, from what I can recall, none of them have come forward. They've all congratulate him for being the nominee of the Democratic Party, but none have come forward and said, that's my guy. Why is that?
Because we are scared of socialism, we're scared of the word, and so we don't do it. And nor do we have the principle. I'm not bad at the American public, but we do not have. We say we have a very knowledgeable world. We're not that knowledgeable.
No.
Okay, I'm telling you. Let's just be honest, folks. We get daggone smart. Okay, I'm just gonna tell you this right out to your face. You ain't that smart. Okay. You think you are, so you're not. So you have to sort of hide the fact. And actually, he did a great job of hiding the socialism piece into a fashion that it looks much more universal democratic, but we all know it's socially bad.
But I think they don't like him, not because of socialism, although they keep pointing to it, because he hasn't supported Israel the way they want him to.
Oh, well, right. You're correct. I think we find places to go back and muddy somebody's reputation.
The debate they had in New York City when they had all the candidates who were running for Democratic nomination for mayor, and they asked each one, where would you go first for as the mayor? Everybody said Israel. And he was like, I'm a mayor. I'm not going to Israel. I'm staying at home. But every single person but him said they go to Israel.
But he was endorsed by two of the main Israeli leaders, the comptroller and the other guy from Queens or wherever. Both were very prominent within the Jewish community.
He's Jewish in Israel, are the same thing.
Well, I'm talking about the outside of Israel, the largest group of Jews is in New York City.
Yeah.
And two of the most powerful ones, the one who's comptroller or running for comptroller, I think is the current comptroller, and the other guy whose name escapes me, both endorse him. So here you got, I'm going to call him a black man who's born in Uganda, and a Muslim, and a Democratic socialist. But he wins the Democratic nomination for the mayor of New York.
I don't know if he's a black man though. So I know his father volunteered and there was stuff with Snick.
Well, black is not a skin condition; it's a heart condition. I call him black because he espoused more principles that are consistent with the interests of
He is
American
talking
black
ethos.
people than some of the people who are my car.
Speaking from the history of civil
I
rights,
told you.
the history of black oppression.
Right.
He's talking as if he's talking. It's like Dr. King was another one from that generation
Yes,
talking
right.
with his face. So yes, he's espousing those ideas.
That's right, and that's the good thing.
Hearing someone non-black say "snick," I was probably like, "What? I didn't know about that."
Why is it that some of these folk who profess to be black politicians, why are they so afraid? Why are they so afraid of this guy? But why don't they come out wholeheartedly and champion?
Because we don't know where we stand. We sort of stand in this waffling process, a seesaw, up or down. You don't look at the King thought process. That's lost. That's why I sit there and teach the students. See, the students, when I teach them, are taught socialization. I talk about Martin Luther King. See, you can't be a doctor until you understand that there's a society that you have to take with you in order. You got to understand your patient. I tell them, smell the room. Smell that room. What that room smell like? Smell like a woman who got both damn daddies. She can't survive. And so we got to attack that more than that. I got a girl who I got a job. That was her prescription. I said, here's your prescription today. Go to the post office. Here's the Federal Express. Here's this and that. I gave her 5 options. What happened in 2 months? She came back with a job. So I negate her edge situation because she now has economic problems. She can now dictate to her rather than the man dictating back to her who's her baby daddy. No, hell with the baby daddy. We need you to get a job so you can get up and do something for yourself. And that's what she did. And every day she come, I said, "You in here? Did you call them? We ain't losing this job." So I'm see what I'm saying. What doctor does that? None.
One who understands the relationship between economics and financial security and access to healthcare and the relationship between healthcare and education. And I mean, in other words, who sees the person holistically,
right?
And not as a product of the computer software.
That's right. I think you said the word holistic.
We've had on this program before in its infancy when it was called the Board Watch.
Okay.
We had owners of companies, particularly I'm thinking about a guy named Robert Harrington, who owns R.E. Harrington Plumbing and Heating, one of the largest utility contractors in the city, and happens to be black owned. I've heard him say, and I've other contractors, clients, that they can't find people who want to work. Well, I mean, I say that because in your example, your prescription to that particular patient was to help her get a job because you saw that tied in with her mental state, her physical state, and so forth. But what about why? Assuming that there are other people in the community that for whom a prescription like that might work, what's the disconnect between the people who need a job as the prescription and the companies that can't find people who want to work?
And that's the problem. We don't join. See, here's what I've advocated. I have advocated us to stop putting healthcare on the side. Healthcare is a social problem. We need to fund it. See, that's even fixing some of the problems we're talking about, the ills of non-universal healthcare. We need to fund it. So when you talk about a person with this much means and has these open positions, what the doctor needs to do, he needs to join in the search for the person. But it's not a part of his thought process. But it should be, because we should make healthcare a right, but we also should make it a necessity for socialization to equalize itself. You see, because if I sit there and say, "Oh, guess what? I got 10 things here with your hair. Let's go back and, hey, baby, just your card. Get down and see the man."
So you're saying that not only is medicine a healthcare, work is part of the socialization of a person. So you need
work and economic problems.
So instead of calling the temporary employment agency only, maybe we should call the doctor's office and say, "Do you got some people who need a prescription or need a work prescription?
Oh, God.
Because I got some openings."
That's right. That's how you change healthcare. And even if we get it as a right, you still got to open up to that you cannot have your people with a right still be socioeconomically not engaged or at the bottom of the barrel. It has to be changed around. And see what I'm doing with that girl. Ain't nobody teach me what to do with her. I know what she needs. I'm a physician. She needs economic stability. The people that Bob was talking about, they need economic stability, and he got a place to come. But the doctor ain't even thinking about that.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
You got to pay for that medical education.
Yeah, you got to pay for the medical education.
You got too many student loans.
Yes, you got too much. You're right, Bob. That's what they think about. Yeah. And guess what? That is real.
Yeah.
So that's a part of the fixing of the medical situation is to fix the high cost of medical education, which does not have to be.
Why is that? You say it doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be.
What's the driving force? Well, and the high cost of education, period.
Yeah, oh no, that's what you getting ready. Yeah, that's what you're getting ready to open up.
Yeah,
you're going to open up this Pandora's box. And I ain't talking about just medical education. I'm talking about all education. When you got these kids, I'm looking at my own daggone daughter. She come out of daggone school, and you got $2,000-$3,000 worth of darn loans. Yeah, she gonna do something with that. If you try to pay it on your own, you ain't going nowhere but staying in your mama's house and eating up food. That's what you're going to do. Ain't nowhere you can go. You can't do it on your own. You can't go out and take a $2,000 apartment and you got $3,000 of student loans, folks. Yeah. Come on, people. It don't work. You don't have to have that. In fact, American, around Reagan and around it, when he did economics, a part of that was almost no school costs. Yeah. And then they changed it from the conversation. But you need to get back to where we can do that. Most here we go again. Okay, the other 9 GDP people, they ain't got no high school costs, people. They keep it low. I'm trying to show you we destroy. See, school costs is part of socioeconomic preparation. You see, if you ain't got that, you ain't gonna be able to fit. You ain't gonna be able to fund yourself. And that's why I go away from. We need to stop pushing people to educational standards. We need to push them to a standard of what's best for you, which is HVAC, air conditioning, or doc.
When my family is working class people. My grandfather, I look back when I was a kid. He came from the Carolinas and he moved to Maryland to make a better life for his family. And my uncles, his children came up and they worked as construction workers, laborers. They saw value in the physical labor in the work. Mm-hmm. They weren't able to get jobs down south because there were no jobs, so they come to the north and leave their wives behind so they can bring them up. And, and so, but that was part of the community, whereas men, primarily, the people needed to toil. They needed the physical labor in order for them to feel valuable and they can do things. I think you're right. When you have people going to college and going to grad school, you can go. So as a young lawyer, I knew many electricians way more money than I made.
That's right.
Way more money than I made. I was working in a law firm, working 12 hours a day and barely making it. And they were electricians and they've been working for years as electricians, and they made way more money. And they felt physically valuable to their family.
That's right.
So their health outcome was they didn't have the same stress I had. They didn't have the same angst I had. They didn't have the same debt I had. So their health outcomes at that point was better than mine. So I think you're right. We're pushing people one way, and it may not be the best for their health, physical or mental.
Right. You got to change the thought process in America. It has to be thought. You have to have the right leader.
Yeah.
And the right person in place, the right conversation, as we've done today. I think we have enlightened people who watch that this is something that you got to put in your mindset. And sometimes you got to let somebody lead that knows what to lead for. And if you're leading for humanity, it's the right person. You may not love everything they do, but it's the right person.
Is there anyone local who you see, politician or neighborhood community person that you see that are doing things the right way in terms of combining the whole person, the health, the wealth, the emotions, all that?
You have very little. You have the things for the homeless that have the right principle. Whether they can foster the right conversation is another question. But they are sensitive to the need. I've talked with them. I've been with various people like that. Even when you talk about those who need food, your food for the homeless. All those kind of things need to be put into a pocket of conversation that the city, the mayor, the governor, everybody has to change their focus because we need to fix this, like you said. We bring them up from Carolina, and during, hey, I get a job making just as much, but you don't even have that perpetuated in the school system because you got this pre-college stuff.
Mhm.
Pre-college is everything in this day in education.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about it, but it ain't pervasive through the thing. We need that HVAC man. We need that electrician, and he should be given the same opportunity. Because one, he doesn't come with the burden of a student debt. Think about that. I know you dealing with it. We were talking about daughters and what we got to try to get them
Yeah,
jobs.
yeah.
Let's talk real.
Yeah.
You know very well, man. I will try to help and do what we can. But guess what? You still hooked with that daggone debt
Mhm.
that nobody told you about. You went to this golden arches, the McDonald's of the world. I mean, that's where you go out to get your education. And you stuck. You ain't getting out that golden arches. Your behind is stuck. And that creates process, creates stress, creates economic deprivation, and we are smack dab in it. We've been bamboozled. Have to change the conversation. The conversation has to change.
I want to talk more. I know you have a nonprofit. I wanted to get in that before the end of the show. Can you tell us about the name of your nonprofit, about what work you got there?
All right, the name of the nonprofit, and we never pulled up the full fruition. We have it now that we're working on it because of all this come about.
Yeah.
But I called it $1 from 1 million.
$1 from 1 million.
Here be people, $1 from 1 million. Do you understand? If 1 million people gave me $1, what I can do? You gave it to the right man. See, you didn't give it to somebody over here. And I'm not trying to put, but you didn't give it to the Jack and Jill black folks.
Yeah.
I ain't trying to down you, Green, but I'm trying to tell you, a lot of y'all look out for other things other than us. And a lot of times we got these educational areas that just push the other our arena. You need to change back to who we are. All right. And that's what I'm saying. We have to put together the movement of socialization and health because they cannot be separated. I cannot give you, and we know that. Hey, I don't even got to tell y'all this. You know, if a man sitting in poverty on South Fulton, he ain't got the same essence as somebody sitting in Roland Park. I've
100%.
talked about it. I told you in Roland Park, folks, listen to me, people. You live to be 70, you live to be almost 80 years old. 79. You go to Fulton Avenue, all you gotta go is 5 miles, and your butt is living to be 69. Do you hear me? That's zip code paralysis. That's zip code, people. That ain't nothing more than that. About money. That's why I do with and I'm not gonna go deep in this, but that's why I said Wes Moore got to tell me why you lived in Guilford, brother. You work for the Robin Hood Foundation. You made $1 million a year. You ain't no public servant, brother. You were paid. And I don't even know if you did what was needed. So I just throw out the question. You got to answer to that to me. Oprah come up and tell me you a public servant, then change that disease mindset. I've got a problem when you don't tell me where you got your wealth from. And don't sit back and put it into perspective because black folk need black people.
People tend to believe that in order to ascend to political office, you have to have X amount of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And tremendous amounts of money. A tremendous amount of money, in my judgment, is wasted when it's being spent on political campaigns. I mean, billions of dollars. I mean, the election. Look how much was spent in the Brooks election.
Oh yes,
millions of dollars. Now, if there are young people out in the community right now who've heard your message and who have the heart and who have the commitment and who are smart enough, who have the education, and realize that what really is lacking is the kind of leadership that you talk about.
Yes.
What do they do when they come into a system, but what they don't have is money?
Mm-hmm.
And how do they navigate through a system where the outcome it clearly is not determined necessarily by how much money you have, but so much of it is influenced by how much money you have, and more particularly, who gives you, who makes the contributions to your effort to obtain that office. How do you overcome that? What's the solution to that? Do you think that the political system is always going to be bound to the one who can raise the most money, or the one who's most popular, or the one who's what do you think?
I think right now you hit it on the head. I think we are down to people who have the most dollar flow. That's what works and moves, and it is a corporatization of political party. It doesn't need to be there. You have to have a person to teach the young people. See, I do that in the office. See, people don't understand. I do that in the office. I'm going to teach you about life. I ain't just teaching you about just the things that we've talked about so far. The socialization is a part of, but I'm teaching you about life, and they see me. That's why it's amazing that we were given so much, because they see this person who has sacrificed their life. Yeah, I ain't made no money. Don't care to make no money. Long as that person is taken care of, that's my payment. Folks, we can do that across the board. Don't mean nothing. Being a doctor, I'm gonna make a good enough check to keep myself alive. But guess what? I'm not gonna go back and sort of direct the patient flow to push money over cause and effect of healthcare. That's what I don't do. And what you're saying is exactly what needs to be done. You have to change the thing. I told you, you stuck in Reaganomics. You got to get the best thing for you. If you can get the people away from Reaganomics philosophy and economics, but you are stuck in since 1980, you will see a change.
I think the hard thing for that is the people who are wealthy have the ear of the politicians.
Yes.
And they're not letting the dollar go. They're not letting 5 cents go. So people who are poor and middle class are the majority by far.
Right.
The vast majority.
Right.
But they don't have the ear of the politicians who make the laws. So we elect them, we bring them in. But people like you mentioned New York City, Bob, and the Jewish people who were supporting Mandami. Bill Ackerman is not supporting them. He's doing everything he can, scorch earth to make sure he doesn't get that position. He's one of those people who affects elections. He pays a lot of money. He supports certain candidates. They will support the candidate that's going to support them, whether the middle class and the poor be damned.
Right.
And that part, we haven't found a way how to, unlike the oligarchy, we haven't found a way how to get around that as the middle class and the poor. There's no constant thought process. It's like the boogeyman. You hear about it, but you don't see him.
Right.
We don't think about it in any real way. So I feel it'll be hard. It'll be hard for people to be able to grasp what's going on in a real way and push back.
That's why we said we ain't that smart.
Yeah.
The politicians are even worse than that. They really ain't that smart. Trump shows you that every day.
Yeah.
The thing that we need to do, and I'm saying, see, when you had Reaganomics in 1980, 1979, I told you we had 70%. You back and put that place, then I start getting with the wealth I need back.
Yeah, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? You got to go back and put it there. It's just a part of the principal act of movement. You got to go back and hit them. When Joe Louis won the heavyweight champion back in 1944, 45, he made in that year $400,000. Took home 40. Just using basic taxation math. You don't have to do it because you go in tiers when you do taxation. So it's not just exactly 1-to-1, but just put it that way for the sake of argument and sake of a discussion. Man took $40,000 home. He still was doing good because the average American only took $4,000.
Yeah.
You hear what I'm saying to you?
Then you didn't have to pay for anything else.
That's right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You change the philosophy back to what worked, and we will see things go because it's then passive. You ain't got to worry about Mr. Rich Man coming back. My brother, you owe 70%. You can talk all day long. You can bring me your checkbook, mother, you owe 70%. Okay. And you got to do it. Go ahead, Bob.
Well, that's why, the name of this program, the last part of it is enough is enough.
Right.
The problem with, as I see it, with the kind of capitalism that's practiced here and throughout the world, it would seem, in most of the world, is that it's unbridled. It's unlimited. How much do you need more? How do you know that? Because I feel it. And so it's not necessarily the ultra super rich that create the problem. It's those seeking to become ultra or super rich. They produce the downward thrust because of their upward, or the attempt to make upward movement.
Right.
So the only thing it seems to me that the majority of people, black or white, can have access to that might thwart that is knowledge.
Right.
Is knowledge.
Right.
And so which is why, there two corporations own all the broadcast media in this country, whether print, electronic, or whatever.
Right.
Two.
You're right.
Right. So how do people, how do you, one, let people understand how important knowledge is? How do you get the knowledge to them? How do you provide the access? And more importantly, how do you teach them that they have to have discernment on what they believe? Right. And how do you do that? How do you do that? I mean, the schools, the public school systems, because of it is fiscal accountability, strip the schools of much of what attracted kids to come there in the first place. They stripped the home economics, the shop, and all this. The only reason I might have come to school was to go to shop where I can work on my machine, or go to home economics where I can do it. Well, you took art class, you stripped all of those things away. The kids don't come. You can't educate them because they're not there. Right. That the fact that they're not there doesn't mean they've disappeared. They're somewhere. Yes. Mostly somewhere where nobody but knows where. The parents don't know where they are. Teachers don't know where they are. They're not in school, right? And they end up. Yeah. So how do you convince people that they need that knowledge? And how do you increase the availability of that knowledge? Where do you look to get it?
I think you got to go back and do what we did in the 70s and the 60s and the 80s. One, vocational schools need to be increased. All right, that gives us what we talked earlier. It gives us away from the pre-college to workable stuff that you can make decisions that are different than what I'm brainwashing you to believe in the first place. It's this damn college system, and then I come out with high cost. Now I got no life. You understand? Most of this stuff is high cost from the student monies they got to pay back. I mean, it's outrageously how much it paralyzes them from movement anywhere. And so when you talk about what you buy, it has to be the conversation. People got to open their mouth. We ain't that smart. We don't need to continue to push blah, blah, blah. We need to push the socialization at school system. Back to what you just said, I had a joy in going back and doing shop. That was the joy. That joy is still there. But we don't have the conversation. Our conversation is now how to incarcerate young people more than helping them get over their brief problems that they need to do. And that's a problem. We used to do that by discussion within the classroom. You know, if you went to school, man, your teacher was up your booty. I mean, we right there act like the teacher don't touch the student. They don't listen. No, you need to jack him upside the wall. I don't care what nobody say. Oh, that's terrible. No, it ain't terrible. What you got is proven ain't working. It's proven. You got folk carjacking. Lady carjacked her yesterday. And then you got 3 people in the car with their goddamn monitor on their legs. I mean, come on, people. What are you talking about? Well, you know that ain't working. We have to have the conversation. And it comes from every avenue. You got the person, take them to the grocery store. Got the person, I take them and I talk to them in that office. I don't just talk about medicine, I talk about life. Go ahead.
I'm going to ask you one question as we prepare to leave this very important topic in this episode. Of your patient population, what portion would you say have suffering physiological ailments or that are ultimately the product of the result from stress, anxiety, stemming from financial insecurity?
Right.
What percentage of your population?
Gosh, 80.
80.
80%, baby. or 90. That's how I look at it. I tell the truth, brother. You don't see. Here's what I do when I tell them kids go in that room. They come out that room and they say, "She just crying." I say, "Because she's got the pain of what we all have just talked about for the last hour or so." So it is a large production because psychology is the smallest group of people that we have time with. I mean, we don't have a good large group of people. So you can't even take care of the mental aspect because you don't have the folks that handle it all. And those that handle it all are very poorly trained.
Yeah.
And I don't mean negatively, they just therapists or whatever. But they can't take care of the bulk of what needs to be done. Plus, you're talking the wrong stuff. When I'm gonna bring you into psychology, I'm looking for one thing, not whether you're depressed or anxious. What in your life makes you this way? And that's what doesn't happen in psych places and people like that. I find out and change your life. Like I get the girl. I changed her life. See, that wasn't putting her on anxiety medicine. That was put on life medicine. You got to fix your life. And we have to be strong enough and critical enough about what we do to do that for everybody. And that's a deep conversation. That's why I said it's 89. Y'all think I'm joking. I'm on this 80 to 90 because everybody walks in that room got a problem.
Yeah.
The doctors don't look at it. I look at it.
If I understand the hand symbol I'm getting, I think we've talked through the end of the program rather than have the music come on to remind me that we were getting to the end of the program so we could make the announcement about who's going to be here next week. But that's okay. We're off the air now. We'll get it together sooner or later. I think, we're off. We're not off? We're still talking?
Wrap it up.
Oh, okay. Well, listen. Let me say this, since I'm the one who don't know what the heck you're talking about. We hope you got all that there was to get from this discussion this morning with Dr. Z. We thank him again for coming out, obviously under some agony of the dreadful disease that he's suffering with. And particularly coming out on this, what for a lot of people is supposed to be a holiday. This is Independence Day. If you join us next week on Friday 11th, we will have with us Reverend Dr. Robert Turner from the Empowerment Temple AME Church of Baltimore. And he's going to be talking about the issue of restitution. Some people call it reparation. I call it restitution. He's the one who makes the monthly walk from Baltimore to DC to show that he believes in what he says. So join us next week, if you will, for another episode of Money, Power, and Politics. Enough is enough. Thank you, Dr. Z.
That's the point. I love it, brother. You know, I come out anytime for you, no matter what. All right.
Appreciate you.
You know that, boy. Y'all my boys.
Yeah.
All right.
I come for anything. Okay. All right, we got it, brother.
Hey, Baltimore.
You got it?